Hey boys, today I'm just going to show you quickly how to edit the menu source because apparently no one knows how to do that. So the first thing you're going to need is Visual Studio. It doesn't really matter what version, but you're going to need 2013 to install the 4.75 SDK, and anything earlier than that you're going to need 2010. There's no free version of 2010, so it's kind of a pain in the ass, so I'd say try to get the newer version of the SDK and install it with 2013. I have 2015 installed, but after that you can just transfer a few files over to any other any other version of Visual Studio and it'll work. So first I'll open up the project. And you'll see I don't get any errors. If you are getting errors and you downloaded an older version of the source, I did update it a little while ago so that this won't be an issue. But if you are running into it, there's a post-build event that runs a program to auto FTP it to my PS3. Oh, my name's there. Great. Oh well. Yeah, just remove that line and you shouldn't have any errors compiling saying that it couldn't find the file or whatever. You can just delete that whole thing. And that should work. That should fix that problem if you're having it. And with all these, it's kind of structured where the pregame menu is in pregame.h obviously, and then the in-game menu is in menubase.h. This is the link for the background. It depends on how many options you have in the menu for how long it has to be. It's kinda roughly like for every option you add, you have to add 25 to the link. Then if you take one away, you subtract 25 from that. It's not exactly 25, but it's close enough. Oh yeah, I have one for each of the submenus. If you add an option, like say this one from 17 to 18, I would have to change this to 18. It's one less than how many options there actually are. So since there's 18 players, it starts at 0, then it goes up to 17. Adding just a basic memory option, you can create the variable for the bytes that you need right above it like this, unsigned char, the name of it, and the length of how long it is. And then in here you just put the bytes that you need, and then down here you're going to write process where you want to write it, the name of the variable, and then you don't actually have to put the actual length, you can just do size of, and then put the name of the variable in there. Something else I have to do, I'm not sure. I haven't done it in a very long time. I haven't worked on this. For toggling it, this is basically saying if it's not true, set this memory and then set it to true, and then if it is true, then it goes down here, sets this memory, and sets it back to false. You can also do this by, if you just comment, I'll just comment these out. Down below you can just have var.uab, it's called, equals, and not UAV. And this is just a basic toggle. It's basically saying if it's true, make it the opposite of true, so it'll be false, and if it's false, make it the opposite of that, which is true. Hopefully I didn't fuck that up in my speaking, but yeah, this is what I do for the Scholar options. It's super sloppy and gross, and you should definitely find a better way to do it, but I didn't really bother doing that. You don't need these essentially, because that is basically if you're going to be able to go back and forth, which I was going to implement, but I never actually got around to doing it before I stopped working on it. A bunch of these variables are in vars.h. All of these, bunch of variables for whatever you need. These are all player colors. You can fuck around with things like this and make your own colors, and these are prestigious. Sky colors. There's actually a better way to do sky colors with a D-var. I forget what the D-var is off the top of my head. I could probably find it at some point, but basically there's just two colors. It'll swap between them. If you don't want to swap, you just set them both to the same color. That is set with a CBuff, which is, let's find one of those. Yeah, here's CBuff. You just do it in one of those. Client 0, this is because non-host, you're always going to be client 0. If it's on a host menu and you want to do it to another client, you have to get the number of the client and then send the command to them so it'll edit their stuff. Reset is basically if you don't know the value of a D-var, if you don't care, that'll just set it back to whatever it is by default. So setting it to 90, and then this is setting it back to 65. Another thing for sky color, I'll show you some of the functions I have here. Bring that back up here. This is the switching through players, the player colors. There is, again, a better way to do it. You could just have an integer, we'll name it delay 100, and then once you do that, you can replace all these with delay. So if you want to change the amount of time in between each one, you only have to change it once and not however many times this is, probably like 10 or 15. Now you only have to change it here if you want to make it longer or shorter. This is in milliseconds, so this is 1/10 of a second. 1,000 is 1 second. Yeah, that's fairly simple. This is reading the name. You don't really need the not connected, because I just grabbed this from an RTM tool and just converted it over to C++, just so I could use it. This is the notification that pops up at the bottom in the pregame menu. There is an actual function in-game you can use to do this, but I haven't, what's it called? I didn't get around to actually doing it. To make a thread, you'll need, like here for this one is player colors. This is the thread that runs this function. You need to create the thread in this function. You can just copy and paste this from another one. You do this, you give it a name, I believe. I forget what that's for. It's the name of the thread. So you declare the thread and then you hook onto the thread, tell it the function to run. Don't have to fuck with these. And then this is just a name that shows up in TMAPI. If you go into Process Explorer, it'll show which threads are running and what the name of the thread is. This is the one for changing a map color and stuff like that. Here's the delay. I have it at 1.5 seconds. It sleeps for delay. Changes all these D-bars. So I set all of them once for everything other than color, and then just change the color from then on. Then if dank map is turned off, it just resets all of these D-bars at once. This one, for some reason, didn't like being in this line, so I just added another one, sleep for 2 milliseconds. Basically, you don't notice it in real time. This is, I think, Antifreeze? Yeah, this is Antifreeze. One of these is causing the problem of you not being able to end the game in a custom game. I forget exactly which one it was. I tried fixing it, but it didn't work. So I just said fuck it and didn't bother fucking with it anymore. This one's for cycling name colors. Class names. If you want to snatch this, this is in vars.h right down here. Do it in bytes. You could just put a string and convert it to bytes if you want to. So setting a recovery, broke it up into a bunch of functions, even though I don't need to. Just a bunch of write processes because they don't overlap perfectly. You can't just write it all at once. And then just call the class names function again. In C++, if you want to call a function, it has to be defined before you call it. So if I move this up above class names hasn't been defined yet, so it should, in theory, give me a build issue, other than the fact that my PS3 isn't on and it can't. Yeah, so class names isn't defined yet right here, so basically it just has to be underneath it. There we go, put that there. This is a show gamer card function. It used to be a lot more gross, but then I think it was DevOps optimized it a bit with this thing. Let's see. Changing name colors. This is changing name color in game. I never actually fixed the XUID part. That was for fixing being able to talk in game. And then have like your emblem and stuff like that while your name's changing colors. Never got around to doing it. This one just runs all the time. It's not in a thread because it gets called here in PRX. Find all the references for that. Should give us where it's called. I know it's in here. It's somewhere near the top. This is too far up. This is just for loading the SPRX injector. You can load any other SPRX as long as it's not too big, and it shouldn't run into any issues. Size of 0. You should be able to just put 0 there, but whatever. This is unlocking the trophies. I pulled this from IDA. Just grabbed the send game server command, so I knew what to put in here. It's 35 achievements. I just grabbed the achievement list from the GSC one. It's not complete, so there's like a few achievements missing, but I couldn't really find them. Had to include menu base down here because it needed this function to be above, because it gets called in there. Reading files. This stuff I don't think I actually use it. Image injector, fairly simple. This is if there's no image, or for whatever reason it couldn't inject it, it'll put it out to tmappy. This is for injecting it, actually calling when to inject it. If it's image first, that just means it injects it when the game starts. It waits 6 seconds and then injects it, but sometimes that wasn't a long enough wait. So then, instead of just having it wait for 9 seconds and have the possibility of the image not being there when you first go on, I had it wait another 3 seconds and then inject it again. It's not going to cause any problems if it already is injected. It'll just overwrite what's already there. It won't make a visible change to the user, and doesn't really take up much time. This is for after you finish a game, because it clears the image since it uses that space in memory during the game for other things. So this is for after it checks if the image has been injected, and also to make sure that you're not in game, because if you're in game it fucks shit up. It'll make it so like you can't load into a game or fuck up your textures in game, which can actually look kind of cool. But same thing here. It'll do that, wait 3 seconds, do it again, just to make sure, and then just sleeps down here, because 5 seconds in between, it just runs all the time. Let's see, paint hook. These are the shaders for drawing the little hint in the top right. This is the text for that. This is the text, these are the shaders. These are the main backgrounds, and these are the lines around it. Functions to call. Toggle check is, so these functions here get called like very, very frequently. It's almost like a loop, but it's not exactly a loop. which is why in these I don't have to loop it, because it just gets called every time, all the time. Which is basically, if you had God mode on, next time you get into a game, put it back on. Same thing with third person and unlimited ammo. This is for no blur wall hack, and this is seeing if I'm in game, set image injected to false, so it doesn't inject the image while you're in game. Auto crouching, again, better way to do this, didn't bother. Spoofing IP, this is the like kind of shitty only works as your host one. I have the one that works non-host, but couldn't be bothered fucking putting it in because I was losing like effort working on it. Drawing health, this grabs your health value, this draws the shaders. This is basically just doing what value, like above what health should it be green, and what health should it be yellow. This is from 3574. And then below 35% health, it's red, basically just meaning low health. Setting your class to have 4 guns. That one kept breaking. I'm not quite sure why, because it works sometimes, doesn't work others. I guess part of the memory is just weird or something. This is anti-crash server. This works if you're host. It basically just totally fucks the SL command. If you turn it on, then it gets rid of the S or the L or something in SL, and then when you turn it off, it'll put the command back in there. So you can call it crash game, same thing. It'll write SL back, which is 73 is S, 6C is L. Put that back there, sleep for a second, and then call crash server. Sleep for another second, put it back to the anti-crash server. And then there you go, you're done. This is a thread. I'm not sure why I put it on a thread. I don't need it on a thread, but yeah, theme changers, fairly self-explanatory. You want a different color, edit the values here. Slap another one on the end, right here. Not bad. Lobby info. Display names. This is for the maps. It was giving me a weird error, and I never actually finished working on it. It'll return an error anyways. Something like an int or whatever, but yeah, fairly simple. Keyboard kinda works, kinda doesn't. Setting names, yeah. Close party bypass. Does what it says it does. You can join closed parties. Is there anything else? HUDs. Drawing on and off. It's fairly simple. Just draws a gray square when it's off, and then draws the check mark shader when it's on. I could have just edited this function to pass through a shader, but I would have had to change every single instance of me calling draw shader, and I really wasn't down to do that, so I just made new functions. Drawing lines, don't use it. Well, I don't. It's for ESP. Never bothered adding ESP. Drawing text, numbered shaders, which was for the original menu base, but I don't actually use it anymore. Adding options. Didn't actually need to do the add pre option, I don't think. But either way, it did. So, yeah, you can have fun with that. Never got this working. This would work better instead of the if statements for cycling through. This is so basically press D-pad buttons, you can go back and forth, stuff like that. Structures. There's an error. I don't think it actually causes an error when you're compiling though, so don't have to worry about it. A bunch of this stuff you're just gonna need for like aimbot, stuff like that. Addresses, fairly simple. This is Spinbot when I tried to move it out of the menu base folder. Yeah, I could probably show you. Aimbot is down here at the bottom of menu base. If you guys can find what the fuck was causing it to freeze when you leave a game, fucking be my guest, I couldn't find it for the life of me. Like, even just trying to completely disable aimbot when you're not in a game just didn't work. So, yeah. You can have fun with that. Where's Spinbot? Here's a fixed movement for Spinbot. This is Spinbot. That's it. That's the whole thing. You just grab the angle and just add to it, subtract to it, depending on what direction you're trying to spin. Changing how much you add or how much you subtract will change the speed on how fast you spin. Fairly self-explanatory. So for walking backwards, never actually got it completely working, but it just grabs your angle, flips it around, and makes you face that way. Wasn't grabbing it enough though. So yeah, this is straight from Paradise, so I'm 100% sure you know what that looks like. These are drawing shaders for the actual menu. This is the little top bar along the top, and then this is the actual body of the menu. X-lock is the location of the menu. It's -7, so there's a 7 pixel buffer from where the side of the menu starts and where the actual text is. This is so if you want to move the menu, you only have to change these variables, and you don't have to change it all over the place. Same thing as adding the delay with the function, the loops. Adding an option to one of these is fairly simple. If you want to add it onto the end, you just paste it. Increment the number by 1. Tell it what to do, or what the name of the option is going to be. If it's a bool, then you give it something to work off of, true or false, and then the location of the text. And then to actually finish that, you have to come down here, whichever one it was. I think it was the second submenu, sub 1. You'll come down here and increment that to 8 because you added another option. Otherwise it won't let you scroll down to it, and then you'll add 25 to this, so it would be 265, and then you just come down here, add the other case, so case 7, you'd add case 8, what you're going to do, and then break out of the case statement. Otherwise it'll not compile. And yeah, that should be it. There's something else I had to do. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think these are fine. Yeah, if you get any other errors, just comment it. I should be able to help you as long as I have like seen the error before, and it's not just something where you like didn't install the SDK right. Install Visual Studio before you install the SDK, otherwise it won't install the SDK tools for Visual Studio, and you won't be able to open it. That's fairly easy to get around. You can just install it again if you already did, or just do it the right way the first time if you haven't. Get rid of that. Yeah, if you want to add another submenu, you can see these are sub 2. Goes down to sub 6, which is the players menu. I didn't bother moving these around. It just goes from 4 to 6, and then 5's down here. This is aimbot, just because I wanted players menu to be on the bottom. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all you guys really have to do. If you want to add another one, go into vars.h, and it's right here, its own little enum thing. You can just add another submenu. You can 7 or whatever. This is pre-game. Yeah, these are a bunch of colors that you can use for the menu. You can just add more by adding another float, giving it a name. The length is 4, and then it's RGBA, which is alpha, which is basically opacity. So, yeah, this is basically just like an off-white, slightly transparent. Yeah, that's pretty much all you guys need to know for editing the menu. Yeah. Have fun, I guess. That didn't stop recording. Nice. Let's try it again.